Hi, I'm Brett Korstad. I have 33 years clean. What happens when you've outgrown the 12 steps? Let's talk about it. It's 2025. I got clean in the program in 1992. A long time ago, like more than 3 decades. I was, I guess, what you'd call a devout member of Narcotics Anonymous. I followed direction, which is basically one of their main tenets of recovery. I left the program after a lot of preparation. I was told by the people that I trusted the most in the program that I was ungrateful, and leaving the program proved that I was full of shit, and my leaving the program to them proved that I definitely was going to use again or get loaded, that I would be alone forever, like romantically, because the only romantic partners for a person like me would be in the program, which was kind of bizarre. I feel like they have like a bag of tricks and that are designed to scare people from going out, venturing out on their own, and every one of them pulled out of that bag, and it was, the thing is that I had been in the program for so long and probably said all those things myself to people that I was prepared. I knew that was coming. And so I had done some work around letting those relationships go in case I had to let them go. I didn't want to. I wanted to maintain those relationships, at least some of them. I didn't just one day say, oh, this sucks, I don't want to do this anymore, and I got this handled. I had a whole, method of leaving because it was so interwoven into just the fabric of my life. I didn't really anticipate that the people who wrapped their arms around me and loved me while my husband was sick and dying would then completely cut me off. I was prepared for that to happen. I thought it was a possibility, but it was still sort of shocking. Like, oh, okay, well, okay. And I just had to accept that. 12-step recovery is, from my experience and my opinion, but from my experience, is really designed for helping people who come in all broken and demoralized, and it teaches them that they can live a different life. They don't have to do what they've been doing, because obviously it's working. They've landed in 12-step recovery, right? I mean, if it was working, they would just keep doing it. So NA in particular, because that's where I came from, was really good at propping up that sick and suffering addict and teaching them through the 12 steps how to maintain their recovery long term, which is basically, if you don't pick up, you can't use. That's it. That's the whole technique, right? And it's very simplistic by design. And then the problem is that 8 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, you've got this individual who's still running around with training wheels and hasn't really expanded their life. And this isn't everybody. Obviously, there are people who really thrive in 12-step recovery, but a lot of people who have to keep going to daily meetings and have to keep calling their sponsor before every decision that they make, and have to check in with their fellowship to make sure to check their thinking. Those are the ones that keep those training wheels on forever and ever. And I just think that is very limiting, self-limiting. But it is first stage, and it is really important for a lot of recovering people. When you have a bunch of people that come in all messed up, they come into this program, they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And that's a fact, right? So then over time, you start to clean up, you know how to wash your clothes, you know how to, you get a car, you got a job, whatever, it looks much better on the surface. That does not qualify you to address each other's trauma. That's probably part of why it, like, all those years ago when this program was being developed, they said, you know, we don't talk about therapy, we don't talk about medication and depression and mental health and that kind of wellness. It goes beyond the 12 steps because maybe they knew they weren't qualified to do that. But if you are not, if the message is we don't talk about outside issues and therapy, medication, mental health, abuse, trauma, we don't talk about those things. What it does is, for those of us that come in with huge amounts of shame behind our trauma, and you tell us we can't talk about it, and we come from that anyway. Like, I'll speak for myself. I was not allowed to talk about it, and when I did talk about it, I was not believed. I was pushed on the outside of the family, and it wasn't safe. My abusers were oftentimes bigger, stronger, male, more authoritative, whatever. And so I come into this program and I'm told, you can't talk about that. And it just reinforces my shame. And so here I am, along with everyone else that's going through the same situation, that have abuse and trauma. Sometimes they're the abuser, whatever. We're told you cannot talk about this, and we push it down and push it down and push it down. What do you think eventually is going to happen? Like, I don't know. For me, it was like I had a trigger event, which was the illness and death of my husband, that brought up all this grief and all this shame and all this pain, and I had nowhere to take it. You know, people say channel your shit through the steps. Well, what step do I channel this through? What do I do? And I had nobody that could really help me, and I wasn't allowed to say, hey, I need outside help. At least implicitly, if not explicitly, told that. So I just said, you know, fuck it, I have to get outside help, and I'm not asking anybody for it. And that's when I started to change, and when I started to realize, when I started to have my grief and my pain and my trauma from current all the way back to my childhood addressed, and I started doing that work, that deeper work, started healing those wounds, I realized, how can these people be charged with this responsibility of taking care of these deeply wounded humans? Like, this, there's something innately wrong with that. I feel a great deal of concern about this sort of outdated method of treating addiction or alcoholism, because it is frowned upon. You know, they're not only are they ill-equipped to deal with mental health issues, you are not allowed to discuss them ever. It's an outside issue. You will be stopped and told not to talk about that. I think it probably is because by and large, there is nobody qualified to address mental health issues, so they've categorized it along with politics or house payments or whatever into the category of outside issue. I believe that a lot of the people that when I got clean were there, they already were indoctrinated into this way of thinking. And so I'm extremely concerned about the younger generations coming into 12-step recovery of this culture of recovery shame. And I think that term should be coined. I think that we should talk more about recovery shame, because when you try to leave Narcotics Anonymous, you are shamed and shunned. Like, I was told that I am ungrateful, or that I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm full of shit, that I'm lying, and that I will get loaded. So to me, that's even less egregious than these young people that are coming in who have access to the language of mental health but can't practice that to get clean in rehabs, which are medicalized, institutionalized, little nuggets of recovery. At least there they have professionals, so they have counselors and things like that. But in 12-step recovery, people that come out of rehab, it used to be anyway, when I got clean, they were marginalized, made fun of. They went to rehab. They didn't get clean through the steps like I did, because that's what I was taught. You know, I didn't know what I didn't know. But what I do know is that these younger people are coming in, like I said, equipped more now with this language of mental health, but dissuaded from seeking that help, whether it's for depression or anxiety or sexual health or gender identity, whatever it is, they're shamed into not talking about it. And that's because this is a 90-year-old program built by people that A, didn't know, B, didn't want to know, C, didn't have the language, and it was 1935, for God's sake. They couldn't meet people where they needed to be met. And so I do sort of worry about people coming up after me. So what do we do once we reconcile that the way that I've been living in this powerless state no longer functions, or I want to do something deeper, or I need more than just channel your shit through the steps, right? Need to go a little bit further than that. I myself have, I did go into therapy, so I highly recommend therapy for people that have trauma, that have unresolved grief, because those things live inside our bodies. We can't just keep holding on to time for those to go. And what I do now, after I've done so much healing work and trauma and grief work, is I guide clients through a 3-step process. It's very simple. It's not complicated at all. It's really about examining the thoughts that create suffering, those obsessive thoughts when you're lying in bed at night that you not shut off. And you've tried things like meditation, yoga, or mindfulness, all those things, and yet these thoughts still sort of seem to, rule your mind. And so I teach people that no, you rule your mind. Those thoughts are not in charge, and there is a way to unknot them and unravel them so that they no longer run the show. So that's the first sort of limb of this teaching. The next thing is shadow work, which goes hand in hand with those thoughts that sort of pervade your life. It's looking at not just the light parts. You're not going to just be all love and light and, fly off into the rainbow with glitter and ponies. We're going to do the shadow work. We're going to look at the things that we've repressed and pushed down and what that means, and pull them out into the light. And so now we're examining our thoughts and our shadows. And then the third limb of this work is very simply learning to live presently in this moment, because that's where all the magic is. That's where all the healing is. That's where everything is in this moment. You can't find what you're looking for outside of that. And so that's really the crux of this work. There's nothing in there that celebrates shame or keeps you held down or tells you in a dogmatic way you have to do it this way. It's a process. And that's and I practice that to this day. And it's a beautiful process, honestly. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. And there's a link in the description for my Discord where you'll find a free PDF of a 5-step plan to being happier now. I hope that you'll go grab that. And please like and subscribe so that you can see what's coming up next.
Wave and say bye.
Bye.